Alright guys, this is a little review of some linear functions that should have been covered pretty heavily in Algebra 1 and even a little in geometry. Things about slope and intercept, y-intercept, and plotting lines and writing equations of lines. So let's go through a little review. If we need to sketch a graph, there's a few forms that linear functions can be written in. The most common one and the easiest one to graph probably is this y equals mx plus b. Okay, and that's called slope-intercept form. Okay, so you have a slope, which is just a number. It's going to measure the steepness of the line. Oops. And then you have another number out here, which is the y-intercept. Okay, and number one is basically set up in that form already. So the easiest way to graph something like that, generally you want to start with the y-intercept. Okay, so the number that's not getting multiplied by x, just the constant number by itself. So we see it's a plus 1 out there. So that's telling me my y-intercept is 1. So I'm going to put a point right on the y-axis at 1. And then the slope will measure two things, a vertical change and a horizontal change. So in this case, since it's a fraction, we can clearly see both numbers. It's 1 over 4. So it's telling me this thing is going up 1 and over 4 units. So I'm going to start from where the y-intercept is and go up 1 and then over 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so there's another point on my line, and that would continue. We'll up 1, over 1, 2, 3. You keep this constant slope. And you can also do it, instead of up and to the right, you can go down and to the left, just to get another point, just if you want to. Okay, get a little more accuracy when you're plotting these points. Okay, so that would be that line. Any point on that line would satisfy the equation y equals 1/4 x plus 1. Okay, so moving along, number 2 here, a little bit different, right? Because it's not in slope-intercept form. It's a weird looking equation. Notice for slope-intercept form though, you just need to have the y by itself. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually just move the plus 4 and the minus 2x to the other side. So let me just rewrite this here. And I'm going to start out, I'm first going to add 2x to both sides, because again, my goal, I just want to solve this thing for y. Okay, so I'll have 2x equals y plus 4. And now to get the y by itself, all I need to do is subtract 4 from both sides. So we will have 2x minus 4 equals y. Okay, now it's in slope-intercept form. Okay, so now we're ready to graph. We're going to do the same thing we did in number 1. I'm going to start out at the y-intercept. Okay, in this case it's at minus 4, so negative 4. And this one's slope, the number multiplying the x is 2, so I'm going to think of it as 2 over 1, right? It's 2 over 1 is 2. So that's telling me to go up 2 and to the right 1. It's a positive number, right? So it's up and to the right, up and to the right, up and to the right. And again, you can do it a few times if you need to. We'd also come through down and to the left like we mentioned. And so that graph would look something like that. Okay, so that kind of is a quick review of graphing. The other thing we need to be able to do is come up with an equation given some information. Okay, so let's, kind of working backwards. Can we get the equation if we know some things about the line? So in number 3 here, they give us an actual graph. So again, the two things we need are the slope and the y-intercept. So the y-intercept I can see from the graph is down there at negative 3, right? And now the slope of this thing, it's a little tougher to see. We need to find another point where it goes through nice whole numbers if possible. And it looks like I see one over here, okay, at negative 4, 0. So it looks like the slope, if we start from the top point on the left here, it's down 1, 2, 3, and then it's over 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so it was down 3, over 4. Okay, so that tells me the slope, since it's down and to the right, has to be a negative number. So this would be y equals, the slope is, again, it's always the vertical change, or the rise, over the run, times x. There's the mx part. And then the y-intercept in this case was negative 3. So we could do plus negative 3, or we could just do minus 3. Okay, and that would be that line. All right, now number 4, they give us a point and the slope. Okay, so kind of similar to number 3, it's just not, in a visual form. We just have to do a little bit of work to get this thing figured out. Alright, so what I tend to do when I know I'm working with linear equations, again, it's pretty much most of the time going to be in y equals mx plus b form, right? So we are given a point. When you're given an ordered pair, you're given an x and y value, okay? And when you're given a slope, we use m for the slope. So if we look at the equation y equals mx plus b, the only thing we don't know is the b. So if you have an equation and you know everything except one piece, you should be able to solve it. So let's plug in what we know. So the y, the coordinate given y value was -4. Okay, the m, the slope, was given as 5/4. That gets multiplied by x, which in this case is -4, plus b. Okay, and why do you think I wrote the -4 like that? I'm going to throw a 1 underneath it so that I can multiply, because I have to multiply it by a fraction, 5/4. Let's write -4 as a fraction. Okay, so let's see what we got here. You can do some reducing before you multiply. I'm just going to actually multiply straight across first and then reduce, but either way. So -20 up top, 4 on the bottom, and then plus b, right? So to multiply those fractions again, I just multiplied the top numerators, 5 times -4, and then I multiplied the denominators 4 times 1. Now we can simplify. What is -20 over 4? It is really just -5. Okay, so -4 equals -5 plus b. To complete that, I can just solve for b, add 5 to both sides, right? And we will get +1 equals b. Okay, now are we done? No. Okay, I get a lot of Algebra 1 students will stop there. They solve for something. Remember, the directions here, we need the equation of a line, right? So we know the slope, and we just found the y-intercept, so we can write the equation by putting those together. Always y equals slope times x plus whatever b is. Okay, so that should be our equation for that guy, 5/4 x plus 1. Okay, and last thing I want to review with you guys, finding the equation of a line. Let's say all we are given is 2 points. Okay, so we don't know the slope yet or the y-intercept yet. Okay, so what we need to do is find each of those things, and then we can put the equation together. So to find the slope, okay, remember slope is the change in y over the change in x, right? It's going to be your rise over run. So you have an x1, y1, right? You have the first point, and you have a second point, right? Okay. Now some people get kind of caught up in what order is it, is it y2 minus y1? And that's probably usually the way it's written. The truth of the matter is, as long as you do the numerator the same order you do the denominator in, it's going to work. But I'll just follow the kind of more standard formula, which says, all right, let's take the second y value minus the first y value over the second x value minus the first x value. Okay, and just watch negatives. So it was -3 minus 3 first. Then I had to do -2 minus -5 first on the bottom, in that order. Okay, and if we carefully simplify that, so -3, take away 3 more, we're at -6. In the denominator, -2, take away -5. So remember, subtracting a negative is really like adding, right? So -2 plus 5 is really 3. Okay, and -6 over 3, if we can reduce that nicely, let's do that to make it easier on ourselves. What's -6 divided by 3? Right, -2. Okay, so that's -2. So we got the slope. Now we're basically to a problem like we just did in the previous problem, where we know the slope now, and we actually have 2 points to choose from. When we want to plug in for x and y, when we do this y equals mx plus b, we can use either point as the x and y. Okay, so I'm just going to use the first one this time, okay? And sometimes you might have smaller numbers, or, might be no negatives or something, but just kind of decide which one you think you want to use. And let's see what we got. So we know I'm going to use 3 for the y value. Oops. So 3 equals the slope, which we solved for, was -2. The x value was -5. I have to use the x that went with the y value I used, right? You can't switch in the middle. And then b again is unknown. So 3 will equal, so negative 2 times negative 5 is positive 10. And we can solve that by subtracting 10 on both sides. So the b value is going to be negative 7. Okay, so we know the b value, we know the y-intercept, we know the slope we had found before. We can put all that together. Final answer, y equals, I feel like I'm on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. If you guys ever seen that show, Final Answer. So y equals mx plus b, right? M, we found the slope up here, negative 2 times x, plus negative 7 or minus 7. Okay, that equation would go through the 2 points they gave us. And the good news is you can always check these, throw in your calculator or plug in the x value into the equation, see if it gets you the y value that it's supposed to, that kind of thing. But hopefully that just served as a quick little review. Again, Algebra 1 should have been a ton of linear functions like that. And we'll be using it from time to time, but I just want to make sure we're familiar with it. All right.